Hey there, folks. Imagine this. It's a stormy night in 1969, and you're about to step into a world where secrets lurk behind every door, where the line between right and wrong is as thin as a state border painted on the floor. That's the magic of Bad Times at the El Royale, a 2018 neo-noir thriller that's got everything you could want in a movie. Suspense, style, stellar performances, and a soundtrack that'll have you tapping your feet long after the credits roll. I'm here to tell you why you absolutely need to watch this gem, especially if you're a fan of twisty tales that keep you guessing without ever feeling predictable. It's like a love letter to classic crime fiction and film noir, but with a modern edge that makes it fresh and exciting. Trust me, once you check into the El Royale, you won't want to check out until you've soaked up every detail. And the best part? It's packed with layers that reward rewatches, making it perfect for movie nights or deep dives into cinema craftsmanship. But let me paint the picture for you without giving away a single surprise, because this film thrives on its mysteries. Set in the late 1960s, Bad Times at the El Royale unfolds over one fateful night at a once glamorous hotel straddling the California-Nevada border. Picture a faded resort with a red line running right through the lobby, symbolizing the divide between two states, and, metaphorically, the choices between good and evil, hope and despair. We meet 7 strangers, each carrying their own hidden baggage, whose paths cross in ways that explore themes of morality, faith, redemption, and the dark underbelly of America's turbulent era. There's a sense of purgatory here, a microcosm of the 1960s social tensions like racism, Vietnam, and political intrigue, all woven in without feeling preachy. It's hyperlink-style storytelling, jumping perspectives to build tension, but always keeping you hooked on the characters' journeys. At 141 minutes, that's about 2 hours and 21 minutes, it gives you time to really immerse yourself, like sinking into a comfy armchair with a gripping novel. If you love films that blend suspense with character depth, this one's a must-see. It's smart, stylish, and delivers pure popcorn entertainment with a dash of social commentary that makes you think without overwhelming the fun. Now, let's talk about the mastermind behind it all. Goddard. This guy is a powerhouse in Hollywood, and if you're not familiar with his work, you're in for a treat. Goddard wrote and directed Bad Times at the El Royale, making it his second feature after the mind-bending horror comedy The Cabin in the Woods in 2012, which he also co-wrote with Joss Whedon. Before that, he penned scripts for hits like Cloverfield in 2008 and The Martian in 2015, which earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. He's got TV creds too. He was a writer and producer on shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Alias, and Lost, where he honed his skills in crafting intricate plots and ensemble dynamics. For this film, Goddard started writing the spec script in November 2016, pouring his influences into it. Classic films like Casablanca, Out of the Past, Chinatown, and Barton Fink, plus novels by authors such as Jim Thompson, Agatha Christie, Dashiell Hammett, James Ellroy, and Flannery O'Connor. He called it a gumbo of crime fiction, film noir, ensemble movies, and 1960s music. What makes it even cooler is how he integrated a list of songs right into the screenplay. He wouldn't sell the script to a studio unless they agreed to license the music first. In March 2017, 20th Century Fox bought it, and Goddard produced it through his company Goddard Textiles, alongside TSG Entertainment. Jeremy Latcham was a producer with him, and Mary McLaglen served as executive producer. The budget? A solid $32 million, which they used wisely to create a visually stunning world. Goddard took inspiration from real places like the Cal Neva Lodge and Casino, once owned by Frank Sinatra, which had its own storied past of glamour and scandal. He even described the film as a deconstruction of genres, though he didn't set out to make it that way. It's all about how ordinary facades hide extraordinary truths. If you're into behind-the-scenes creativity, Goddard's vision alone is reason enough to watch. It's a testament to taking big swings in storytelling. Of course, no movie shines without its cast, and Bad Times at the El Royale boasts an ensemble that's nothing short of spectacular. Leading the pack is Jeff Bridges as Father Daniel Flynn, a priest with a gravelly voice and a mysterious aura. Bridges, an Oscar winner for Crazy Heart in 2009, and a legend from films like The Big Lebowski and True Grit, was the first actor Goddard approached, and he jumped on board by August 2017. His performance is layered and commanding, bringing depth to a character grappling with inner conflicts. It's the kind of role that showcases why he's one of the greats. Then there's Cynthia Erivo as Darlene Sweet, a struggling singer whose soulful presence lights up the screen. Erivo, who burst onto the scene with her Tony-winning role in The Color Purple on Broadway, was cast after sending audition tapes. This was one of her early film roles before she starred in Harriet and Widows. She even helped develop her character's powerful monologue, and her live singing on set is breathtaking. It adds such authenticity. Critics raved about her, calling her a standout with a voice that could move mountains. Dakota Johnson plays Emily Summerspring, a tough hippie type, and she joined in January 2018 after Russell Crowe dropped out of a different role. Johnson, known from the 50 Shades series and Suspiria, brings a fierce edge that's perfect for the era's counterculture vibe. Jon Hamm is Laramie Seymour Sullivan, a slick traveling salesman. Or is he? Hamm, the Mad Men star who's no stranger to charismatic roles, had just 2 days to read the script and a week to memorize 14 pages of dialogue, but he nails it with that classic charm. He even mentioned working with Bridges was a dream since his college days. Kaylee Spaney portrays Rose Summerspring, Emily's sister and a young cult member. Spaney was a newcomer at the time, cast in August 2017 after Goddard saw her potential. She'd go on to star in Pacific Rim, Uprising, and Priscilla. Lewis Pullman as Miles Miller, the hotel's young concierge, delivers a breakout performance. He's Bill Pullman's son, and Goddard praised how he fit the role like magic, much like Chris Hemsworth in The Cabin in the Woods. Speaking of Hemsworth, he plays Billy Lee, a charismatic cult leader with shirtless swagger, reuniting with Goddard from that earlier film. Hemsworth, the Thor himself, took the part to stretch beyond blockbusters, and his magnetic presence adds a dangerous allure. Nick Offerman appears as Felix O'Kelly, a bank robber. The Parks and Recreation star brings his deadpan intensity to a smaller but impactful role. Xavier Dolan plays Buddy Sunday, a music producer. The Canadian filmmaker-actor adds flair. Shea Whigham is Dr. Woodbury Lawrence, Mark O'Brien as Larson Rogers, Charles Halford as Sammy Wilds, Jim O'Air as Milton Wyrick, and even Stephen Stanton voices J. Edgar Hoover, with Rebecca Tulin as Helen Gandy, Manny Jacinto as Wearing Wade Espiritu, and William B. Davis as Judge Gordon Hoffman. The whole cast took pay cuts to make the film happen. That's how passionate they were. Their chemistry is electric, turning individual stories into a cohesive tapestry. If star power draws you in, this lineup is unbeatable. Each actor elevates the material, making you care deeply about their fates. Diving into the production, it's fascinating how they brought this world to life. Principal photography kicked off on January 29, 2018, and wrapped by April 6, 2018, mostly in Vancouver, British Columbia, under the working title Purple Harvest. They chose Vancouver for a 28% tax credit, saving costs on that $32 million budget. The El Royale Hotel was built from scratch on a massive 60,000 square foot soundstage at Mammoth Studios in Burnaby, with a 10,000 square foot set designed by production designer Martin Wist. Everything was custom made, from branded matchbooks and coasters to the furniture, to capture that faded 1960s glamour. The color scheme is genius. California's side glows with warm yellows and oranges for optimism, Nevada's with cool purples and blues for vice, red reserved for the borderline, jukebox and chandelier symbolizing danger, and green almost absent until the end for thematic punch. They shot chronologically for better continuity, using Kodak 35mm film with a Panavision Panaflex XL camera and C/E anamorphic lenses in a 2.39:1 aspect ratio. No traditional set lighting, just natural light designed into the hotel for an authentic feel. Cinematographer Seamus McGarvey, known for Atonement and The Avengers, crafted a 1960s-inspired look with vibrant colors and compositions that make every frame pop. Costume designer Danny Glicker nailed the era's fashion. Hamm's suit shifts with the weather to show his adaptability. Erivo's outfits are slightly imperfect to reflect her character's career struggles. Key scenes were meticulously planned, like a 5-minute continuous tracking shot where Hamm explores a hidden corridor, taking 27 takes over 8 months of prep, with Erivo singing live and crew in padded shoes for silence. Flashbacks were filmed in Agassiz for a bank robbery, Acton, California for Vietnam sequences at the Pulsa Rosa Ranch, and a Canadian Army armory for FBI, doctor, and jail scenes, plus LA and Malibu for outdoor moments. Editor Lisa Lasek used Avid Media Composer, working right above the set during filming due to processing delays in Vancouver. They even shot TV monitor footage early for later projections. The one-way mirrors? Real 30% reflective glass for spying scenes. Symbolism abounds. The borderline represents moral choices, colors signify character arcs, red for impending doom with Billy Lee, black and white for truth and deception with Daniel, bright hues for Darlene's hope. It's all about visual storytelling that enhances the narrative without words. If you appreciate technical wizardry, this film's craftsmanship will blow you away. It's why cinema lovers should cue it up. And oh, the music! Goddard treated the soundtrack like an eighth character, integrating songs as a Greek chorus to comment on the action. He required music licenses before selling the script, ensuring classics from the 1960s era fit perfectly. Cynthia Erivo sang live on set, with loudspeakers blasting during filming so everyone could feel the vibe. Pullman and Bridges even read the script with the songs playing to capture the tone. The score was composed by Michael Giacchino, who reunited with Goddard from Alias and Lost. Giacchino's work adds tension and emotion, released as an album on October 12, 2018 via Milan and Republic Records, with a re-release on November 30th adding Erivo's performances of This Old Heart of Mine Is Weak for You and Hold On, I'm Comin'. Critics called it one of the year's best soundtracks, praising how it elevates scenes. Think soulful tracks that mirror the characters' inner worlds. If a killer playlist gets you excited, this movie's audio experience is reason enough to hit play. When it came to release, Bad Times at the El Royale premiered at Fantastic Fest on September 22, 2018 as the closing night film, then had its world premiere at the San Sebastian International Film Festival, out of competition. It opened the 13th Rome Film Festival for its Italian premiere and hit U.S. theaters on October 12, 2018 via 20th Century Fox, pushed back a week from October 5th to dodge competition from Venom and A Star is Born. Rated R for violence, language, and some drug content, it's for mature audiences who dig edgy thrillers. Marketing was spot on. Exclusive images dropped May 29, 2018, teasing historical ties. A teaser trailer June 7th. Official trailer August 28th, revealing character hints without spoilers. Posters were artistic. 8 character ones on June 26 with progressing sunset light, 7 more plus theatrical on August 13th with neon glows, another on August 28th. TV spots ran from September 4th, racking up over 223 million impressions in 1 week, with a total ad spend of $24.46 million. They screened at CinemaCon and San Diego Comic-Con, offering exclusives via lottery. A 10-minute preview came out December 21st. Home media, digital HD on December 18, 2018, and physical Ultra HD, Blu-ray, and DVD on January 1, 2019, with featurettes, a 28-minute making-of doc, trailers, and an image gallery. No director commentary, which some critics noted as a miss, but it's still packed with extras. Reception-wise, this film earned solid praise despite mixed scores. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's at 74% fresh from 256 reviews, with a 6.7 out of 10 average. The consensus hails it as smart and stylish, packed with great performances and a tangy subtext. Metacritic gave it 60 out of 100 from 43 critics, calling it mixed or average, and audiences on CinemaScore rated it B-. Critics loved the soundtrack, cast, especially Erivo's breakout, Bridges' gravitas, and the ensemble's balance, and McGarvey's cinematography for its composition and color palette. Some knocked the pacing, lengthy runtime, character beats, and Goddard's writing, comparing it to Tarantino knockoffs like Pulp Fiction or The Killing, with a third act that felt too clever. NPR praised its swift plot. RogerEbert.com called it unfortunately apt in title but clever. Chicago Reader found it insufferable at times. Still, it's seen as a potential cult classic, with positive nods from Polygon, Bustle, and others for its fun B-movie pulp with A-list stars. Awards? It snagged 5 nominations at the 45th Saturn Awards: Best Writing for Goddard, Best Actor for Bridges, Best Supporting Actor for Pullman, Best Supporting Actress for Erivo, and it won Best Thriller Film. Erivo got nods for Black Reel Breakthrough Performance, London Critics Circle Supporting Actress, and Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Supporting Actress. McGarvey was nominated for British Society of Cinematographers Theatrical Feature and the Film for Golden Trailer Best Home Horror/Thriller, and San Diego film critics' best use of music. If critical acclaim matters to you, this one's got enough to make it worthwhile. It's not perfect, but its strengths shine bright. Box office? It grossed $31.8 million worldwide against that $32 million budget. $17.8 million in the US and Canada, $14 million elsewhere, making it a bomb, blamed on the runtime, R rating, and tough competition. Opened to $7.1 million in 2,808 theaters, 7th place, with $2.8 million on day one, including $575,000 previews. Second weekend, $3.4 million, 9th place. Internationally, it debuted with $4 million in 36 markets. Tops in Russia, $913,000, Australia, $884,000, UK, $620,000, Germany, $315,000, then $2.5 million second weekend, $1.63 million third in 49 markets. Pulled from theaters December 6, 2018. But hey, box office doesn't define quality. Think of classics like Blade Runner that bombed initially. Sprinkling in trivia. The film is set on January 27, 1969, based on a Nixon press conference shown. The ambiguous film reel hints at historical figures like JFK, clues, Marilyn Monroe photo, Cal Neva's Kennedy ties, tying into Darlene's rant on power abuses. It's a purgatory for 1960s sins: Nixon, Hoover, racism, Vietnam. Goddard unintended the deconstruction theme, like in Cabin in the Woods. Erivo co-wrote her monologue as the sole woman of color lead. Hamm aspired to work with Bridges since college. Pullman felt a magic fit. Giacchino and Goddard go back to Alias and Lost. Shot without traditional lighting, the set provided it all. Green appears only at the end for symbolism. The cast's pay cuts show their commitment to bold projects. If you thought the first part of this deep dive into bad times at the El Royale was packed, buckle up, because we're just getting started. This 2018 neo-noir masterpiece deserves every minute of your attention, and I'm here to keep hyping it up like the passionate narrator I am, telling you exactly why you should drop everything and watch it right now. It's got that rare combo of gripping suspense, killer style, and real emotional weight that sticks with you long after the screen fades to black. No spoilers here, just pure enthusiasm and every juicy detail I can throw at you so you can feel like you've already stepped inside that faded lobby on the California-Nevada border. Let's pick right up with the production secrets that make this film feel so authentic and immersive. The entire El Royale Hotel, built from the ground up on a massive soundstage at Mammoth Studios in Burnaby, British Columbia. Production designer Martin Wist, who'd previously collaborated with Drew Goddard on The Cabin in the Woods, dreamed up this perfectly symmetrical beast of a set, spanning 10,000 square feet inside a 60,000 square foot stage. Why build it? No real location had that flawless symmetry or the exact faded glamour vibe they needed. Plus, they could control the weather completely, no waiting for rain or sun. Everything inside was custom-made. Branded matchboxes, coasters, furniture, wallpaper patterns unique to each room. Darlene's is the most vibrant, full of life. The color scheme is pure genius. California side bathed in warm yellows and oranges for that optimistic glow. Nevada side in cool purples and blues for sleaze and vice. Red? Saved for the borderline running through the lobby, the jukebox, the chandelier, anything hinting at danger. And green? Almost completely absent until a key moment at the end, making its appearance hit like a symbol of hope or renewal. It's visual storytelling at its finest, where the set itself tells part of the story without saying a word. Filming kicked off on January 29, 2018, under the working title Purple Harvest, and wrapped by April 6th, mostly in Vancouver for that sweet 28% tax credit that helped stretch the $32 million budget. They shot chronologically where possible, which is huge for an ensemble piece like this to keep everyone's emotional arcs consistent. Cinematographer Seamus McGarvey shot it all on real 35mm Kodak film with Panavision anamorphic lenses in that glorious 2.39:1 widescreen ratio, giving it a classic, epic feel that lets the ensemble breathe. No traditional set lights. The hotel was designed to provide its own natural illumination. One standout technical feat, that long, continuous tracking shot where Jon Hamm's character explores the secret corridor behind the one-way mirrors. They planned it for 8 months, rehearsed with tiny models and figurines starting in November 2017, and it took 27 takes over multiple days. Cynthia Erivo was singing live during the whole 5-minute sequence, so the entire crew wore padded shoes and moved in dead silence. No creaks, no whispers. Another singing scene where she had to cover background noises? That one needed 20 takes. The commitment to authenticity is insane. The secret corridor itself? Real 30% reflective glass for those one-way mirrors, so the spying feels genuine. For the bonfire climax, they built it outside the parking lot with fire-retardant materials and a giant vent to suck out smoke, shot during the day to avoid freezing the cast, especially with some shirtless scenes. Flashbacks got their own locations: the bank robbery in Agassiz, British Columbia, Vietnam sequences at Polsa Rosa Movie Ranch in Acton, California, originally planned for Thailand, FBI offices, doctors' rooms, and jail scenes in a Canadian Army armory, even a quick flower walk and beach moment shot in LA and Malibu. Editing by Lisa Lasek, another cabin in the woods alum, happened right above the set on Avid Media Composer. Processing delays in Vancouver meant they couldn't wait. They shot TV monitor footage super early so it could be projected later for realism. Post-production wrapped early October 2018 at DNX HD 115 resolution. Costume designer Danny Glicker nailed the 1960s era with subtle tells. Jon Hamm's salesman suit changes with the weather to show his adaptability. Erivo's outfits have that slightly off, imperfect edge to mirror her character's career struggles. The whole thing screams attention to detail. Now, the soundtrack, man, this is where the film becomes something special. Drew Goddard wrote the songs right into the script as an eighth character, like a Greek chorus commenting on the action. He refused to sell the script unless studios licensed the music first. Cynthia Erivo sang live on set, with speakers blasting the tracks so everyone felt the vibe. Louis Pullman and Jeff Bridges even read their scripts with the songs playing to get the tone. Michael Giacchino's original score, he and Goddard go way back to Alias and Lost, adds layers of tension and emotion. The score album dropped October 12, 2018, via Milan and Republic Records, with a November 30th re-release adding Erivo's killer live versions of This Old Heart of Mine Is Weak for You and Hold On, I'm Coming. Critics called it one of the year's best, gritty, textured, favoring lower ranges for that dark edge. The pre-recorded songs blend perfectly, turning the movie into a musical time capsule of the late 60s. Release-wise, it premiered at Fantastic Fest on September 22, 2018, as the closing night film, then hit Grauman's Chinese Theater in LA with the full cast and crew. Joss Whedon called it gritty, hard-edged, but adorable. It screened out of competition at San Sebastian and opened the Rome Film Festival. Theatrical release, October 12th in the US, pushed back a week from October 5th to dodge Venom and A Star is Born. Rated R for violence, language, some drug content. Perfect for mature thriller fans. Marketing leaned hard into noir nostalgia, exclusive images. May 29th teasing historical ties. Teaser June 7th, official trailer August 28th. Praised for revealing almost nothing but building hype. Character posters. June 26th showed sunset progression mirroring arcs, neon glow ones August 13th. TV spots racked up 223 million impressions in 1 week. Total ad spend around $24.46 million. Home release, digital, December 18, 2018. Physical January 1, 2019, with a 28-minute making-of doc, featurettes, trailers, image gallery. No director commentary, which some fans wished for, but still loaded with extras. Reception, solid but mixed. 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. Praise for style, cast, soundtrack, cinematography. 60 out of 100 Metacritic. Critics loved Erivo's breakout. Her monologue is powerful, Bridges' gravitas, the ensemble balance, and McGarvey's vibrant frames. Some called out pacing, the long runtime, and third-act cleverness as uneven. Cinema score B-, but it's grown into a cult favorite. People rewatch it for the layers, the music, the themes of redemption and morality in a turbulent era. Box office was tough. $31.8 to $31.9 million worldwide against $32 million, $17.8 million domestic, $14 million international. Opened to $7.1 million, 7th place, $2.8 million first day with previews. Second weekend, $3.4 million, 9th. International debut, $4 million in 36 markets. Russia topped at $913,000, Australia $884,000, UK $620,000, Germany $315,000. Pulled from theaters December 6th, blamed on runtime, R rating, competition, but quality wins out over numbers. Trivia nuggets. Set on January 27, 1969. Nixon press conference. The hotel draws from Cal Neva Lodge, Frank Sinatra's old spot. Cast and Goddard took pay cuts for creative freedom. The film reel hints at real scandals. JFK ties via Maryland Cal Neva history. It's like a purgatory for 1960s sins. Racism, Vietnam, cults, surveillance. Goddard didn't plan a deconstruction like Cabin. It just happened organically. We're back diving even deeper into why Bad Times at the El Royale is the kind of movie you need in your life, right now. If the earlier parts got you excited about the cast, the director's vision, and that insane production craftsmanship, just wait. This film isn't just a one-and-done watch. It's built for rewatches, packed with subtle details, symbolism, and layers that reveal more every time you hit play. Picture yourself spotting a new color cue or a hidden moral choice on your third viewing. That's the magic here. It's a stylish, suspenseful ride through 1969 America that feels both retro cool and eerily relevant, with themes of redemption, faith, lies, and the thin line between good and evil. And trust me, once you experience it, you'll be telling everyone to check into this hidden gem. Let's talk more about those incredible visuals and how they pull you in. The hotel itself is a character, faded luxury hiding dark secrets, and the way it's shot makes every corner feel alive. Shot on real 35mm Kodak film with those wide anamorphic lenses, the images have this rich, textured grain that digital just can't match. Cinematographer Seamus McGarvey worked hand-in-hand with production designer Martin Wist to make the set provide its own lighting. No harsh Hollywood floods, just natural glows from lamps, windows, and that iconic chandelier. The result? Frames that look like vintage postcards mixed with noir shadows, pulling you right into the era. We're rolling right along with this love letter to Bad Times at the El Royale. No photos this time, just pure words to paint the picture in your mind and keep that excitement building. If the earlier parts had you hooked on the cast chemistry, the director's bold vision, the insane production details, and that killer soundtrack, we're about to go even deeper into what makes this film feel so alive, so layered, and so worth your time. This is the kind of movie that sneaks up on you, starts as a stylish thriller, turns into a character study, and ends up feeling like a meditation on morality, faith, and second chances, all wrapped in 1969 coolness without ever preaching. It's smart, it's suspenseful, it's sexy in that old-school noir way, and it's got heart. Let's keep unpacking why you should clear your schedule and dive in. One of the things that keeps people coming back to Bad Times at the El Royale is how every single character feels real and flawed from the moment they walk through those double doors. Jeff Bridges as Father Daniel Flynn isn't your typical saintly priest. He's got a rough voice, a haunted look, and you can sense the weight of past mistakes in every slow step he takes. Bridges brings this quiet gravitas that makes you lean in. You believe every word, even when you know there's more beneath the surface. Cynthia Erivo's Darlene suite is the emotional core of the whole thing. She's a singer who's been knocked down too many times, but she refuses to stay down. The way Erivo carries herself, proud, tired, fiercely talented, makes you root for her hard. And when she sings, it's not just background music, it's the soul of the movie pouring out. She performed live on set, and you can feel that raw energy in every note. It's the kind of performance that makes you want to stand up and cheer. Then you've got Dakota Johnson as Emily Summerspring, tough, guarded, a little wild, and her sister Rose, played by Kaylee Spaney, who's got this wide-eyed vulnerability that hides something much darker. The tension between them is electric. You feel the history without needing a ton of exposition. Jon Hamm's Laramie Seymour Sullivan is all smooth charm and slick suits at first glance, but Hamm layers in just enough unease to keep you wondering what's really going on behind that salesman's smile. Louis Pullman as the young hotel concierge Miles Miller is heartbreaking and quietly brilliant. His innocence mixed with quiet pain is one of the film's most moving threads, and Chris Hemsworth as Billy Lee? He shows up and the whole temperature of the room changes. Shirtless, charismatic, dangerous. He's magnetic in a way that makes you understand why people follow him, even when you know you shouldn't. The ensemble clicks in a way that's rare. Everyone gets their moment to shine, and no one feels like they're just filling space. Drew Goddard's writing is what ties it all together. He loves playing with genre expectations, taking the familiar beats of crime thrillers, westerns, and noir, then twisting them just enough to feel fresh. The hotel straddling the state line isn't just a cool gimmick. It's a perfect metaphor for the choices these characters face, the moral gray areas they live in, the way good and evil can exist side by side, separated only by a thin red line. The 1960s setting is more than backdrop. It's alive with the era's unrest, Vietnam hanging over everything, civil rights struggles, political paranoia, the rise of cults, the fading American dream. Goddard weaves those elements in lightly, never heavy-handed, so you feel the weight without it slowing the pace. The pacing is deliberate. At 2 hours and 21 minutes, it gives the story room to breathe. Some people call it slow, but I think it's patient, and patience pays off. The first act introduces everyone and builds this delicious sense of unease. The second act starts tightening the screws with revelations and confrontations, and the third act explodes in ways that feel earned. It's the kind of structure that rewards attention. If you're on your phone, you'll miss the little glances, the loaded silences, the way a single line of dialogue lands differently the second time you hear it. The violence when it comes is sudden and brutal, but never gratuitous. It's there to show consequences, to strip away the facades these people have built. The film doesn't glorify it. It makes you feel the cost. And in between those bursts, there are moments of real tenderness, quiet conversations in hallways, shared cigarettes, small acts of kindness that remind you these are people, not archetypes. That's what elevates it from good to great. The themes run deep without feeling forced. Redemption is at the heart of it. Can people change? Can they be forgiven? What does faith look like when everything you believed in is crumbling? The movie asks big questions, but it does so through character, through action, through the choices they make in a single night. It's a film about the masks we wear, the lies we tell ourselves, and the moments when the truth finally breaks through. And it does all that while looking and sounding incredible. The score by Michael Giacchino is moody and atmospheric, full of low strings and pulsing rhythms that keep the tension simmering. Combined with the era-perfect songs, it creates this perfect sonic world. Soul, Motown, rock, all used to comment on what's happening on screen. When a song kicks in, it's never random. It's saying something about the characters' inner lives. Visually, it's stunning. The wide shots of the hotel lobby make it feel grand and lonely at the same time. The close-ups catch every flicker of emotion. The color grading, those warm California tones bleeding into Nevada's colder blues, mirrors the shifting moods. Every frame is composed like a painting. You could pause the movie at almost any point and have a gorgeous still. So why should you watch Bad Times at the El Royale? Because it's a bold, confident piece of filmmaking that respects your intelligence. It doesn't spoon-feed you answers, it trusts you to connect the dots. It delivers thrills, laughs in the right places, heartbreak, and a finale that leaves you thinking. It's got style for days, but the style serves the story. It's got an all-star cast giving everything they've got. It's got music that stays with you. And most importantly, it's got soul. This is the kind of movie you watch once for the ride, twice to catch the details you missed, and a third time just because it feels good to be in that world again. Dim the lights, turn up the volume, pour yourself a drink, and check into the El Royale. You won't regret it. Let's keep this fire going because we're not done celebrating Bad Times at the El Royale just yet. If you've been listening along, you already know this movie has style dripping from every frame, a cast that brings their A-game, and a story that twists and turns in the best possible way. But what really makes it stick with people, what turns casual viewers into passionate fans, is how it balances everything so perfectly. The tension, the humor, the heartbreak, the moral questions, all while never losing its cool. One of the smartest things Drew Goddard does is give every character their own private hell. Each person who walks into that hotel is running from something or towards something, and you feel the weight of their baggage the second they appear on screen. There's no filler here. Even the smaller moments, someone lighting a cigarette, the way a hand hesitates before touching a door, the pause before answering a question, carry meaning. It's the kind of writing where silence speaks louder than dialogue, and when people do talk, every word feels loaded. Take the way the film uses the hotel's layout as a playground for suspense. Those long, empty hallways, the secret corridor that runs behind the rooms like a vein of secrets, the one-way mirrors that let people watch without being seen. Every architectural choice feeds the paranoia and the voyeurism that runs through the whole story. You start noticing how the camera moves, slow tracking shots that make you feel like you're creeping along with the characters, sudden cuts that jolt you, wide angles that make the lobby feel both grand and claustrophobic. It's masterful direction that never calls attention to itself. It just pulls you deeper in, and the performances keep giving. Jeff Bridges has this lived-in quality. He doesn't act like he's acting. He just is the character. Every sigh, every glance, every small gesture feels authentic. Cynthia Erivo turns Darlene into someone you desperately want to protect and root for at the same time. Her strength isn't loud, it's quiet and unbreakable, and when she finally lets loose, it's cathartic. Jon Hamm plays charm like it's a weapon, but you can see the cracks underneath. Dakota Johnson brings this raw, almost feral energy to Emily that makes her unpredictable in the best way. Kaylee Spaney as Rose is heartbreaking because she seems so young, so lost, and yet so dangerous. Lewis Pullman gives Miles this heartbreaking innocence. He's the heart of the film in a lot of ways, the one person who still believes in something good. And Chris Hemsworth? He weaponizes his charisma. When he's on screen, the energy shifts. You feel the danger radiating off him. The film also has this wonderful sense of humor, dry, dark, perfectly timed. There are moments where you laugh because the situation is so absurd, or because someone says exactly the wrong thing at the worst time. It keeps the tone from ever getting too heavy, even when things get intense. It's that balance that makes the whole experience feel alive, not just a grim thriller. Another thing that elevates it is how it respects the audience. Goddard doesn't explain everything. He trusts you to pick up on the subtext, to read between the lines, to notice the little clues scattered throughout. The movie rewards attention and curiosity. On rewatch, you catch things you missed the first time, a look that lasts a second too long, a line that takes on new meaning, a color shift that signals a change in power. It's rich, layered filmmaking that feels generous instead of manipulative. The themes hit harder the more you think about them. This is a movie about people at crossroads, literally and figuratively. Do you cross the line into something darker, or do you hold on to whatever goodness you have left? What does forgiveness look like when you've done terrible things? Can you ever really escape who you were? The film doesn't give easy answers, and that's why it lingers. It leaves you with questions that feel personal, that make you look at your own choices a little differently. The violence, when it arrives, is sharp and shocking, but it's never cartoonish. You feel the impact, physically and emotionally, and right after, there's often a quiet moment that lets the weight settle. That's rare. Most thrillers rush past the aftermath. This one lingers, letting you feel the cost. The ending, without spoiling a single detail, is satisfying in a way that few modern thrillers manage. It feels earned, surprising, and strangely hopeful. You walk away with this mix of adrenaline and reflection, the kind that makes you want to talk about it for hours. If you're someone who loves movies that are more than just entertainment, if you enjoy films that look beautiful, sound incredible, make you think, and still deliver genuine thrills, then Bad Times at the El Royale is tailor-made for you. It's not perfect, and it doesn't try to be. It's bold, it's confident, and it's unapologetically itself. So here's my final pitch. Tonight, or this weekend, or whenever you need something that feels substantial, put this one on. Dim the lights, turn off your phone, maybe grab a drink that matches the era, something strong and smoky, and let the El Royale take you in. Let the music wash over you, let the characters pull you into their world, let the suspense build until your heart is racing. And when it's over, sit there for a minute in the dark and just feel it. This movie is special. It's one of those hidden treasures that keeps getting better with age, that finds new fans every year, that people keep discovering and falling in love with. Don't miss out. Check in, stay a while, and let it work its magic on you. If you're just tuning in, we've been breaking down why this 2018 thriller is an absolute must-watch. From its stellar cast and clever direction to the intricate production details and that soundtrack that'll have you humming for days. But trust me, there's still so much more to unpack here. This movie isn't just entertainment, it's a crafted experience that lingers, making you think about fate, choices, and the hidden sides of people long after the credits roll. If you love films that blend mystery with real emotional depth, that look gorgeous and sound even better, then this is your next binge. Let's keep rolling and explore even more reasons to hit play tonight. One of the things that sets Bad Times at the El Royale apart is how it uses its setting not just as a backdrop, but as a living, breathing part of the story. That hotel on the border between California and Nevada, faded from its glory days, with rooms that echo the 1960s mix of glamour and decay, feels like a character all its own. Imagine checking in on a rainy night, the neon sign flickering outside, the lobby split right down the middle with that bold red line separating the two states. On one side, the promise of something brighter. On the other, the lure of sin and shadows. It's symbolic, sure, but never in your face. Goddard weaves it in so naturally that you feel the tension building with every creak of the floorboards or slam of a door. The way the film explores the era's social undercurrents, like the lingering scars of Vietnam, the fight for civil rights, the paranoia of government surveillance, the rise of charismatic figures leading people astray, adds this rich layer without ever derailing the main thrill. It's like stepping into a time capsule that's both nostalgic and unsettling, reminding you how history's echoes can feel so personal. And speaking of Goddard, let's circle back to his influences because they're what make this film feel like a loving homage without being a copycat. He drew from classic noir films. Think the moral ambiguity of Out of the Past, the ensemble intrigue of The Killing, the atmospheric dread of Chinatown, but mixed in pulp novels from Jim Thompson and Dashiell Hammett, the Southern Gothic twists of Flannery O'Connor, even the locked room mysteries of Agatha Christie. It's a gumbo, as he called it, of genres: crime fiction, Western standoffs, horror elements, all stirred with 1960s music and social commentary. Goddard wrote the script as a spec in late 2016, pouring in his love for stories where ordinary people collide in extraordinary ways. He insisted on the music being part of the deal, writing scenes around specific songs, refusing to budge until the studio locked in the licenses. That's passion, folks. And when 20th Century Fox picked it up in 2017 for that $32 million budget, they gave him the reins to produce through Goddard Textiles, with Jeremy Latcham by his side and Mary McLaglen as executive producer. It's the kind of creative freedom that shows on screen. Bold choices, like shooting on film instead of digital, or building that massive set, pay off in making the movie feel timeless yet fresh. The cast chemistry is another layer that demands more attention. These aren't just actors phoning it in. They're fully immersed, bouncing off each other in ways that feel electric and real. Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo share scenes that crackle with unspoken understanding. Two souls searching for something amid the chaos. Bridges, with his Oscar-winning pedigree from films like True Grit and Hell or High Water, brings this weathered wisdom that's perfect for a man of faith questioning everything. Erivo, fresh off Broadway triumphs, infuses Darlene with a resilience that's inspiring. Her live singing isn't just a gimmick. It's a window into her character's heart, performed with such power that the crew would applaud after takes. Dakota Johnson and Kaylee Spaney as the sisters add this volatile dynamic. Johnson's tough exterior hiding vulnerabilities, Spaney's youthful innocence masking deeper complexities. Jon Hamm's smooth operator vibe clashes perfectly with Lewis Pullman's awkward earnestness as the concierge. Hamm had to memorize pages of dialogue in days, but he makes it look effortless, drawing on his Mad Men charm. And when Chris Hemsworth enters as Billy Lee, it's like the air gets thicker, his Aussie charisma turned up to 11, making the cult leader feel dangerously alluring. Even the supporting players, Nick Offerman as a grizzled robber, Xavier Dolan as a sleazy producer, Shea Wiggum in a quick but memorable turn, add flavor without stealing focus. The whole group took pay cuts to make it happen, showing how much they believed in Goddard's vision. It's ensemble acting at its finest, where everyone elevates the group. Production-wise, the attention to authenticity is mind-blowing. Filming in Vancouver for tax breaks meant recreating 1960s America in Canada. Think building that hotel set with every detail dialed in, Custom furniture, era-specific props like rotary phones and vintage slot machines in the Nevada side. The bonfire scene, constructed outside with fire-safe materials and a massive vent to handle smoke, shot during daylight to keep the cast warm. Flashbacks jumped locations, Agassi for a gritty bank heist, California's Pulsa Rosa Ranch for Vietnam's humid jungles, swapped from original Thailand plans for budget. The FBI offices, jail cells, and doctors' exam rooms, all in a Canadian armory for that stark institutional feel. They even filmed outdoor bits in LA and Malibu for authenticity. Editor Lisa Lasek cut it all on Avid right next to the set, dealing with film processing delays by working in real time. The result? A seamless flow that builds suspense like a slow-burning fuse. The soundtrack deserves another shout-out. It's integral, not just filler. Songs like deep cuts from Motown and soul artists aren't random. They underscore emotions, heighten tension, even foreshadow shifts. Cynthia Erivo's live renditions of classics bring goosebumps. Imagine her voice filling the set, the cast reacting in real time. Michael Giacchino's score weaves in seamlessly, with those brooding undertones that amp up the noir feel. Released as albums in October and November 2018, it's the kind of music that stands alone but elevates the film to another level. Release and marketing built the hype smartly. Premieres at Fantastic Fest, San Sebastian, Rome, trailers that teased without spoiling, posters with neon glows and character spotlights. Home video extras like the 28-minute making-of doc let fans geek out over the process. Reception, mixed but passionate. 74% on Rotten Tomatoes for its style and cast, though some critiqued the length. Awards nods at Saturns, winning Best Thriller, and others highlight its strengths. Box office may have been soft at $31.8 million, but cult status grows yearly. We're still not quite done shining a spotlight on bad times at the El Royale, because honestly, this movie deserves every extra minute we can give it. If you've been riding along with me through all these details, you already know it's got the goods. The ensemble cast firing on all cylinders, Drew Goddard's razor-sharp direction, the jaw-dropping production design, that unforgettable soundtrack, and a story that mixes suspense with soul-searching depth. But let's zoom in on a few more things that make it such a rewarding experience, especially for anyone who loves movies that feel like they're speaking directly to you. One of the quiet strengths of this film is how it handles silence and space. There are long stretches where very little is said, and yet the tension keeps ratcheting up. A character stands in an empty hallway, listening. Another pours a drink and stares at the glass like it holds answers. The camera lingers just long enough that you start to feel the weight of what isn't being said. Goddard uses those pauses masterfully. They're not empty. They're full of possibility, doubt, regret, hope. In a world of fast cuts and constant noise, this movie dares to slow down, and it makes every explosion of action or dialogue hit that much harder. The dialogue itself is crisp and clever without ever feeling like it's trying too hard. People talk the way real people do, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes cuttingly, sometimes with a dry wit that sneaks up on you. There are lines that are funny in the moment, then become heartbreaking on rewatch when you understand the full context. Goddard has a gift for writing conversation that reveals character without spelling it out. You learn who these people are by how they speak to each other, how they dodge questions, how they lie, how they finally tell the truth. The moral ambiguity is another huge draw. Almost no one in this movie is purely good or purely evil. Everyone has done things they're ashamed of, everyone has reasons for the choices they've made, and everyone is trying, in their own messy way, to find some kind of redemption or meaning. The film never judges them outright. Instead, it puts you in the room with them, lets you see their humanity, their flaws, their small moments of grace. That refusal to give easy heroes or villains makes the story feel adult, honest, and strangely comforting. It says, we're all complicated, we're all broken in places, and maybe that's okay. The 1969 setting isn't just aesthetic, it's thematic fuel. This was a year when America was tearing itself apart. The war in Vietnam was grinding on, the civil rights movement was still fighting for every inch, political assassinations were fresh in memory, and people were questioning every institution. The hotel becomes a microcosm of that fractured country. People from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different beliefs, all thrown together in one pressure cooker of a night. The film doesn't lecture about any of it. It just shows how those larger forces shape individual lives. And let's talk about the small, perfect touches that reward the attentive viewer. The way a cigarette is stubbed out, the sound of a key turning in a lock, the flicker of a TV in the background showing a news clip that quietly connects to the bigger picture, the way light falls across someone's face, revealing a scar or a tear or a flicker of recognition. These aren't accidents. They're deliberate, loving details that make the world feel lived in and real. The ending, once again without spoiling anything, lands with a strange kind of grace. It's not tidy, it's not sentimental, but it feels right. You get the sense that some things have shifted, some wounds have started to heal, and some truths have finally been faced. It's the kind of conclusion that leaves you quiet for a moment, processing, feeling satisfied without feeling spoon-fed. If you're still on the fence, here's the simple truth. Bad Times at the El Royale is the kind of movie that reminds you why we love cinema in the first place. It looks beautiful, it sounds incredible, it tells a gripping story, it makes you care about the people on screen, and it leaves you with something to chew on afterward. It's entertaining and thoughtful at the same time. Rare combination. So my advice hasn't changed. When you get the chance, turn off the lights, crank the volume, and let this film take you on its ride. Let the music pull you in. Let the characters get under your skin. Let the suspense keep you glued to the screen. And when it's over, give yourself a minute to just sit there and feel everything it stirred up. This movie is a gem. Maybe not the flashiest one out there, but one that keeps shining brighter the more you look at it. Give it your time. I promise it'll give you something back. We're deep into this celebration of bad times at the El Royale. And honestly, I could talk about this movie for hours because every layer I peel back reveals something new that makes it even more compelling. One of the most captivating elements is how the film turns a single night into an entire universe of conflict and revelation, where time itself feels stretched and compressed at the same time. You arrive with these 7 strangers in the late hours of a stormy evening in January 1969, and by the time dawn threatens to break, so many lives have been upended, secrets exposed, and fragile hopes either crushed or quietly kindled. The pacing is deliberate, almost luxurious in places, allowing Goddard to build a slow-burning pressure cooker where every glance, every half-spoken sentence, every creak of the old wooden floors adds to the mounting sense that something irreversible is about to happen. It's the opposite of today's quick-cut, jump-scare thrillers. This one trusts you to sit with the discomfort, to feel the unease settle into your bones, and when the payoff finally arrives, it lands with the weight of inevitability and surprise all at once. That slow build isn't wasted. It's essential, because it gives the characters room to breathe, to reveal who they really are beneath the masks they've worn for years, and it gives you, the viewer, time to invest emotionally in people who might otherwise just be archetypes in a genre piece. What really elevates the whole experience is the way Goddard refuses to let any character be one-dimensional. Each person who steps across that state line threshold carries a lifetime of choices, regrets, and rationalizations, and the film peels them back with patience and precision. You start seeing the priest not just as a man of the cloth, but as someone wrestling with the very faith he preaches. The singer isn't merely talented and down on her luck. She's someone who's been systematically undermined by a world that never gave her a fair shot, and her quiet dignity in the face of it becomes profoundly moving. The salesman with the easy smile and sharper tongue hides layers of calculation and vulnerability that make you question every word he says. The young concierge, seemingly the most innocent of the bunch, is burdened by guilt that ages him beyond his years, and his small, desperate attempts at decency become some of the most heartbreaking moments in the film. Even the charismatic figure who arrives later, with his easy confidence and dangerous allure, isn't cartoon evil. He's a product of the same turbulent era, someone who learned how to exploit people's need for belonging and purpose. By refusing to paint anyone in pure black or white, Goddard creates a moral landscape that's messy, human, and uncomfortably relatable. You find yourself empathizing with people whose actions you might condemn in real life, and that's powerful storytelling. It forces you to confront the gray areas we all live in. The visual language of the film is another reason it stays with you long after you've checked out. Every shot feels composed with intention, From the wide, symmetrical views of the lobby that emphasize isolation and division, to the intimate close-ups that capture the flicker of doubt or determination in someone's eyes. The color palette isn't just pretty, it's storytelling in its own right. Those warm California oranges and yellows promise hope and renewal, while the cooler Nevada purples and blues pull you into temptation and darkness. The red line running through the floor becomes more than a gimmick. It grows heavier with meaning as the night progresses, a constant visual reminder of the choices being made, the borders being crossed, the lines being blurred between right and wrong. The cinematography by Seamus McGarvey gives the whole thing this rich, textured quality. Shot on actual film stock, it has a grain and depth that digital often lacks, making the hotel feel like a real, lived-in place rather than a set. The lighting is soft and moody in the quiet moments, harsh and unforgiving when tension spikes, and every transition feels earned. You could mute the sound entirely and still follow the emotional arc through the visuals alone. Then there's the way the film uses music, not as decoration, but as a narrative voice. The songs aren't just period-appropriate. They're active participants in the drama, commenting on the characters' inner states, heightening the irony, or pushing the story forward. When Cynthia Erivo sings live on set, you hear the strain, the passion, the exhaustion in her voice, and it becomes impossible not to feel what Darlene is feeling. The original score by Michael Giacchino adds these low, brooding pulses that make your pulse quicken without you even realizing it. Together, the soundtrack creates an emotional texture that wraps around you like smoke, lingering in the air long after the final note fades. It's the rare movie where the music feels essential, like the story couldn't exist without it. At its core, Bad Times at the El Royale is about what happens when people are stripped of their illusions and forced to confront the truth about themselves and each other. It's about the possibility of grace in a world that often seems devoid of it, about whether second chances are real or just another lie we tell ourselves. It asks big questions about faith, about power, about forgiveness, about the cost of survival, while never losing sight of the human beings at the center of it all. And it does so with style, with intelligence, with heart, and with a wicked sense of humor that keeps the darkness from ever becoming oppressive. So if you're looking for a movie that entertains you, challenges you, moves you, and stays with you, this is it. It's not perfect, but its imperfections are part of its charm. It's bold, it's confident, it's unafraid to take its time, and when it finally lets loose, it does so with devastating precision. Give it the uninterrupted attention it deserves. Let the rain beat against the windows. Let the neon glow flicker. Let the music pull you in, and let these flawed, fascinating people take you on a journey you'll remember for a long time. Let's keep this heartfelt tribute to Bad Times at the El Royale rolling, because every time I think I've covered all the reasons this movie is special, another beautiful detail bubbles up that makes me want to press play all over again. One of the most underrated aspects of the film is how it masterfully balances the intimate and the epic. On one hand, it feels like a chamber piece, 7 strangers trapped in a single location, their fates intertwined over the course of one long, rainy night. But on the other, it carries the weight of an entire era. The personal struggles of these characters mirror the larger cultural and political fractures of late 1960s America in ways that are subtle yet profound. You sense the shadow of Vietnam in quiet moments of guilt, the sting of systemic racism in a single conversation, the seductive danger of cults in the charisma of one dangerous man, the erosion of trust in institutions through the paranoia that simmers beneath every polite exchange. Goddard never hammers these themes home with speeches or heavy exposition. Instead, he lets them seep into the atmosphere like the rain outside the hotel windows, so that by the end, you realize you've been watching not just a thriller, but a quiet portrait of a country and a people trying to find their way through moral fog. What also makes the movie endlessly rewatchable is the sheer density of foreshadowing and callbacks. Almost every object, every line of dialogue, every background detail is placed with purpose. A casual mention of a song early on echoes later in a way that suddenly changes its meaning. A seemingly throwaway object in one room becomes pivotal hours later. The way characters move through the space, the lobby, the hallways, the hidden corridor, starts to feel like a dance, each step revealing more about who they are and what they're capable of. On first viewing, you ride the wave of suspense and surprise. On the second, you start noticing the breadcrumbs Goddard left behind, and everything snaps into sharper focus. On the third, you begin to appreciate how tightly the script is constructed, how every scene is building toward something inevitable yet still shocking. It's the kind of filmmaking that rewards patience and curiosity, the kind that makes you feel smart for noticing things, and even smarter for realizing how much more there is to discover. The performances continue to reveal new shades with each viewing, too. Jeff Bridges, for instance, is doing something quietly extraordinary. He's playing a man who has spent decades hiding behind a role, and you can see the exhaustion, the doubt, the flicker of genuine belief in his eyes. It's a performance built on restraint, on what he doesn't say as much as what he does. Cynthia Erivo, meanwhile, delivers one of the most emotionally naked portrayals I've seen in years. Her character's pain, pride, and resilience are all there in the way she holds herself, in the tremble of her voice when she finally lets the music take over. You feel every year of struggle she's endured, every time someone told her she wasn't enough. Jon Hamm brings this delicious mix of charm and menace, making you laugh 1 minute and tense the next. Lewis Pullman's quiet, wounded sincerity as the young concierge is devastating in its simplicity. He doesn't need big monologues to break your heart. He does it with a look, a hesitation, a small act of courage. And when Chris Hemsworth steps in, the entire dynamic shifts. He's like a storm cloud rolling into a room that's already too small, and his presence forces everyone and you to confront what they're really afraid of. The sound design deserves its own paragraph of praise. Beyond the incredible soundtrack, the film uses silence, ambient noise, and sudden bursts of violence with surgical precision. The creak of floorboards, the distant rumble of thunder, the low hum of a neon sign, the soft clink of ice in a glass. These sounds aren't background, they're part of the tension. When violence erupts, the sound is sharp and ugly, not stylized or glamorous, and the aftermath is allowed to breathe with ringing ears and heavy breathing. It all adds up to an immersive experience that makes you feel like you're there, standing in the lobby with the rain drumming on the roof, waiting for the next shoe to drop. At the end of the day, Bad Times at the El Royale is a movie about people who have lost their way, who have compromised, who have hurt others and been hurt themselves, and who, in one extraordinary night, are given a chance, maybe their last chance, to choose differently. It's about the possibility that even in the darkest places, even when everything feels broken, there's still room for grace, for connection, for a small, stubborn act of goodness. It doesn't promise that everything will be okay, but it doesn't leave you hopeless either. It leaves you with a strange, bittersweet sense of possibility. So if you're still here with me, still curious, still wondering whether this film is worth your time, let me just say this one last time. Yes, 1,000 times. It's worth every minute of its 2-hour-plus runtime. It's worth the slow build, the quiet moments, the shocking turns, the lingering questions. It's worth dimming the lights, turning up the sound, and surrendering to a story that treats you like an intelligent, feeling human being. Go watch it. Let it surprise you. Let it move you. Let it stay with you. And when you're done, come back and tell me what you felt. Because this movie has a way of making people want to talk, to share, to connect, just like the strangers in that hotel, reaching across the line, hoping for something real. We're still deep in the groove with Bad Times at the El Royale, and I have to say, the more I talk about it, the more I realize why this film has quietly built such a devoted following over the years. There's something almost hypnotic about the way it refuses to rush, the way it invites you to linger in the discomfort and uncertainty of its characters, instead of constantly feeding you new shocks or revelations every 30 seconds. That patience is rare in modern cinema, and when it's done this well, it becomes a kind of gift. You get to sit with people who are scared, ashamed, hopeful, angry, and lost, all at the same time, and you start to understand that their confusion, their contradictions, their desperate attempts to hold on to some version of themselves are not so different from the ones we carry around in our own lives. The movie doesn't moralize, it simply observes, and in that observation, it becomes profoundly human. Another thing that keeps pulling people back is the sheer confidence in its tone. Goddard never winks at the camera, never undercuts the tension with self-aware jokes or postmodern irony. He commits fully to the world he's built, Its glamour, its decay, its danger, its fleeting moments of tenderness, and that commitment makes everything feel authentic, even when the plot takes turns that are deliberately theatrical. The hotel itself is treated with reverence. Every peeling wallpaper pattern, every tarnished brass fixture, every dusty lampshade feels like it has history, like real people once laughed, cried, fought, and loved in these rooms. That sense of place is so strong that when the violence comes, it feels like a violation of something almost sacred, and when kindness appears, it feels like a small miracle in a place that has long forgotten how to hope. The ensemble dynamic is another quiet triumph. These are not people who instantly like or trust each other. They size one another up. They lie, they deflect, they probe, and only gradually, sometimes against their better judgment, do glimpses of connection start to form. A shared cigarette, a reluctant confession, a moment where someone chooses not to pull the trigger when they easily could. These tiny gestures carry enormous weight because the film has earned them. By the time the night reaches its crescendo, you realize you've become invested not just in who survives, but in whether any of them can find a version of themselves worth saving. That emotional investment is what separates good thrillers from great ones, and this film achieves it without ever manipulating you into cheap sentiment. Thematically, the movie keeps circling around ideas of performance and authenticity. Everyone is playing a role when they arrive: the priest, the singer, the salesman, the hippie sisters, the concierge, the charismatic stranger. They have rehearsed their lines, polished their appearances, built their alibis, but the hotel, with its thin walls, its hidden passages, its one-way mirrors, strips those performances away layer by layer. What remains is raw, messy, human, and often beautiful in its brokenness. The film asks, without ever saying it outright, who are we when the masks finally fall? What do we cling to when the stories we've told ourselves no longer hold? And is there anything left worth believing in? It's heavy stuff, but it's delivered with such style, such visual elegance, such musical grace, that it never feels like a lecture. It feels like an invitation to reflect. And then there's the ending again. Still no spoilers, I promise. But the way it closes is almost poetic in its restraint. It doesn't tie every thread into a neat bow. It doesn't force redemption or despair. It simply lets the characters, and you, sit with the consequences of the night. Some things are resolved, some are left hanging, some are transformed in small, almost imperceptible ways. You walk away feeling that something real happened here, something that mattered, even if the world outside the hotel keeps spinning indifferently. That bittersweet aftertaste is one of the reasons people keep returning to it. It doesn't cheat you with false comfort, but it also doesn't abandon you in nihilism. It strikes a delicate balance, and that balance is rare and precious. So here we are, still talking, still finding new angles to admire, because Bad Times at the El Royale is the kind of film that keeps giving. It's stylish without being shallow, dark without being hopeless, thrilling without being empty. It's a reminder that cinema can still be bold, patient, intelligent, emotional, and entertaining all at once. If you haven't seen it yet, or if it's been a while, do yourself a favor. Carve out the time, create the mood, and let this movie wash over you. Dim the lights, pour something strong, turn the volume up so you can feel the music in your chest, and let the El Royale open its doors to you one more time, or for the very first time. I promise it will be worth every second. We're still wrapped up in this long, loving conversation about Bad Times at the El Royale, and I honestly don't want it to end because every time I circle back to another facet of the film, it reminds me why it feels so alive, so necessary, even years after its release. There's a particular kind of magic in movies that manage to be both intensely specific and quietly universal at the same time, and this one does it with such grace. The story is locked into one hotel, one night, one border-straddling place in 1969, yet the questions it raises about who we pretend to be, who we really are when the lights are low and the masks slip, whether anyone can ever truly wash the past off their hands, feel timeless. You could set the same basic premise in a 1940s roadside motel, a 1980s roadside diner, or a futuristic bunker, and the emotional core would still resonate, because at its heart it's about people standing at the edge of their own moral cliffs, deciding whether to jump, climb back, or try to build something new from the wreckage. What continues to astonish me is how Goddard turns potential cliches into something fresh and aching. The priest with a secret, the struggling singer, the slick salesman, the damaged siblings, the naive kid behind the desk, the magnetic cult leader. These are all familiar types in crime and noir stories, yet somehow in this telling, they never feel like types. They feel like people you've met, or people you could become under the right or wrong circumstances. The script gives each of them just enough backstory to make their presence felt without overloading the narrative, and then it lets the actors fill in the rest with glances, silences, tiny physical tics that say more than pages of exposition ever could. It's a masterclass in showing rather than telling, entrusting the audience to read between the lines and feel the weight of what's unsaid. The physicality of the film also deserves more appreciation than it usually gets. The way bodies move through the space is almost choreographed. Slow, deliberate steps down long hallways, sudden bursts of frantic energy, the way someone leans against a doorframe as if the wood is the only thing keeping them upright. There's a tactile quality to everything. The texture of worn velvet on the chairs, the chill of rain-soaked clothes, the sticky heat of tension in a crowded room, the sharp bite of gunmetal. You can almost feel the dampness of the night air seeping through the cracks, the faint smell of old cigarettes, and cheap perfume hanging in the lobby. That sensory immersion is rare, and when it's this well done, it makes the stakes feel real, immediate, almost personal. And then there's the humor, dark, dry, perfectly timed, that acts like a pressure valve. Without it, the film could tip into unrelenting gloom. But those sharp, unexpected laughs, a perfectly delivered line, an absurd coincidence, a moment where someone says exactly the wrong thing at the worst possible moment, give you just enough oxygen to keep going. It's the same kind of gallows humor that real people use when everything is falling apart. Not because the situation is funny, but because laughing is sometimes the only way to keep from screaming. Thematically, the movie keeps returning to this idea of crossing lines, literal, moral, emotional, and what happens after you do. Once you step over that red stripe in the lobby, once you make the choice that can't be unmade, once you speak the truth that has been choking you for years, there's no going back to who you were 5 minutes earlier. The film is fascinated by that irreversible moment, by the way a single decision can ripple outward and change everything. Yet it never treats those decisions as simple or clean. They're messy, they're compromised, they're born out of fear, desperation, love, guilt, hope, all tangled together. And that's what makes the story feel so honest. Because real life is rarely black and white, rarely heroic or villainous in pure form. It's gray, it's complicated, it's human. So here we are, still talking, still finding new ways to say how much this film matters. Bad Times at the El Royale isn't loud or flashy or designed to go viral in 30-second clips. It's quiet, patient, confident, and deeply felt. It's the kind of movie you watch when you want something substantial, when you want to be challenged and moved and entertained all at once, when you want to walk away feeling like you've been somewhere real and come back a little different. If you haven't seen it in a while, or if you've never given it the chance it deserves, tonight is the night. Set the scene. Make it an event. Turn off the distractions. Pour yourself something that matches the mood and step across that state line with the rest of them. Let the rain fall. Let the music play. Let the night unfold. And when the final frame fades, sit there for a minute. Feel whatever it stirred up. Because this movie has a way of leaving echoes. Small, quiet, persistent echoes that stay with you long after you've checked out. Thanks for letting me ramble on and on about one of the most beautiful, underrated films of the past decade. It's been a genuine pleasure. Now go, experience it for yourself. The El Royale is waiting, and I promise the night will be unforgettable. We're still here, still immersed in the world of Bad Times at the El Royale, and I think that's telling in itself. This movie has a gravitational pull that makes it hard to walk away once you've started talking about it, thinking about it, reliving it. There's a kind of quiet obsession that builds around films like this, the ones that don't shout for your attention but earn it slowly, steadily, until you realize you're carrying pieces of it around with you days later. You catch yourself humming one of Darlene's songs in the shower, or noticing how a real-life hotel lobby has that same faded grandeur, or suddenly wondering what happened to those characters after the rain stopped and the sun came up. It's not the kind of film that leaves you with empty adrenaline. It leaves you with questions, feelings, echoes, small, persistent echoes that make everyday life feel a little richer, a little more layered, because you've just spent 2+ hours inside a story that treats human complexity with respect instead of simplification. One of the deepest pleasures of the movie is how it turns isolation into intimacy. These 7 strangers are, on paper, completely alone, each hiding their own agenda, each terrified of being truly seen. Yet the hotel becomes this strange crucible where isolation starts to crack open. Forced proximity, shared secrets, the simple act of breathing the same air for hours on end, it all begins to erode the walls they've built. Not in a sentimental, feel-good way, but in a raw, reluctant, sometimes painful way. A conversation that starts as suspicion ends in unexpected understanding. A moment of violence is followed by a moment of tenderness that neither person expected. The film understands that real connection is rarely clean or easy. It's messy, it's awkward, it's born in the worst possible circumstances. And that's exactly what makes those fleeting instances of grace so powerful. You watch these people reach across the divide, not just the red line on the floor, but the deeper divides of guilt, shame, fear, pride, and you feel the ache of it, the hope of it, the fragility of it. Drew Goddard's direction has this wonderful sense of restraint that amplifies everything. He doesn't overload the screen with flashy camera moves or constant score swells. He lets silence do a lot of the heavy lifting. There are scenes where the only sound is rain on the roof, footsteps in the corridor, the soft click of a lighter, the distant crackle of a radio playing something faintly nostalgic. Those quiet spaces aren't dead air. They're alive with possibility, with dread, with the unspoken things hanging between people. When he does choose to move the camera, it's always with purpose. A slow push-in on a face as a lie is told, a long tracking shot that follows someone through the hidden passage like we're eavesdropping on their soul, a wide shot of the empty lobby that makes the space feel both vast and suffocating at the same time. Every choice is deliberate, every frame is earned, and that craftsmanship creates an atmosphere so thick you can almost taste it. Thematically, the film keeps coming back to this idea of confession, not the dramatic, movie-style confession where someone dramatically reveals everything in a single speech, but the slow, halting, imperfect kind that real people actually make. Characters admit things in pieces, sometimes to others, sometimes to themselves, sometimes without even realizing they're doing it. A single sentence, a look, a gesture, a song sung when no one's supposed to be listening. These become the real moments of truth, and Goddard treats those moments with reverence. He doesn't rush past them or undercut them with irony. He lets them breathe, lets them hurt, lets them heal just a little. The result is a film that feels profoundly compassionate, even when it's at its darkest. It never mocks its characters for being broken. It simply watches them try to put themselves back together, piece by jagged piece. And let's be honest, the ending stays with you because it refuses to be tidy. It gives you resolution where it matters most, but it also leaves plenty of open space. Some questions are answered, some are left hanging, some are transformed into new questions. You finish the movie with this mixture of satisfaction and wistfulness, the kind that makes you want to sit quietly for a minute before moving on to the next thing. It's the mark of a truly good story. It doesn't end when the credits roll. It keeps unfolding in your mind, in quiet moments, in conversations you have with yourself or with friends who also loved it. So if you're still reading or listening, still curious, still feeling that pull toward this film, trust that instinct. Bad Times at the El Royale isn't just a movie to watch. It's a movie to experience, to savor, to return to. It's one of those rare pictures that feels bigger every time you see it, deeper every time you think about it, more beautiful every time you remember a particular shot, a particular line, a particular look between two people who were strangers a few hours earlier. Make the time for it. Create the mood. Let yourself sink into the rain-soaked night, the flickering neon, the slow burn of secrets and second chances. Let these flawed, fascinating, heartbreaking people take you by the hand and lead you through their world. When it's over, don't rush to turn on the lights or check your phone. Just sit there. Feel the weight of what you've just witnessed. Let it settle. Because this movie doesn't just entertain you, it stays with you. And in a world that moves too fast and forgets too quickly, That's a rare and beautiful thing. We're still lingering in the dimly lit lobby of Bad Times at the El Royale, and honestly, I feel like we could stay here forever, because every corner of this movie keeps revealing new shadows and new glimmers of light the longer you look. There's something almost meditative about the way the film refuses to hurry you along. It doesn't treat you like a viewer who needs constant stimulation, but like someone willing to sit in a quiet room and listen to the rain, to the breathing of strangers, to the faint crackle of old records playing songs that feel like memories you never had. That willingness to slow down, to let tension build through atmosphere rather than rapid-fire plot twists, is what separates this from so many other thrillers. It trusts you to feel the weight of each passing minute, to notice how the mood shifts when someone lights a cigarette or when a door closes a little too softly. And because it trusts you, you start trusting it back. You lean in, you pay attention, you let yourself be carried by the rhythm of the night. One of the most beautiful things about the movie is how it uses the physical space of the hotel to mirror the emotional landscape of its characters. The lobby, split by that stark red line, becomes a visual metaphor so potent that it almost feels alive. On the California side, there's the illusion of warmth, of possibility, of a brighter future just across the border. On the Nevada side, there's the pull of vice, of secrets, of things you're not supposed to want but can't stop reaching for. Characters literally and figuratively cross that line throughout the night, and each crossing feels like a small, irreversible act of self-definition. The hidden corridor behind the walls becomes another layer of that metaphor, a secret vein running through the building, just like the secrets running through every person inside it. You can spy on someone through a one-way mirror, hear them through a thin wall, watch them unravel without them ever knowing you're there. The architecture itself is complicit in the voyeurism, the paranoia, the fragile intimacy. It's brilliant design, both in story and in the actual production. Every hallway angle, every doorway frame, every piece of furniture placement was chosen to heighten that sense of exposure and enclosure at the same time. The film also has this rare quality of making violence feel consequential instead of cool. When things turn brutal, there's no slow-motion glamour, no stylized blood sprays, no triumphant music cue. The violence is ugly, sudden, intimate, and it echoes. You hear the impact, you see the shock on faces, you watch the aftermath linger in stunned silence. And then, in the quiet that follows, the movie doesn't rush to the next beat. It lets the characters, and you, feel the cost. Someone's hand shakes. Someone else stares at their own palms like they don't recognize them. Someone tries to speak and can't find the words. That restraint turns what could have been exploitation into something closer to tragedy, and it makes the stakes feel achingly real. At the same time, the film is never without hope, even when hope feels foolish. There are tiny, stubborn acts of decency scattered throughout, offering a glass of water to someone who looks like they've been crying, choosing not to walk away when you easily could, singing a song when the world is falling apart around you. These moments aren't loud victories. They're quiet refusals to let the darkness win completely. The movie understands that grace often looks small and ordinary, that redemption rarely comes in thunderclaps, that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is simply stay in the room with another broken soul a little longer than they want to. And the performances keep unfolding like flowers in the dark. Every time you revisit the film, you notice something new in the way Jeff Bridges lets a flicker of genuine pain cross his face, or how Cynthia Erivo's shoulders drop just a fraction when she finally allows herself to be vulnerable, or how Jon Hamm's smile tightens almost imperceptibly when someone gets too close to the truth. Lewis Pullman's eyes carry an entire backstory in their quiet sorrow, and Kaylee Spaney manages to make innocence and danger coexist in the same young face. Dakota Johnson brings this coiled, watchful energy that makes you believe she could explode or collapse at any second. And Chris Hemsworth, when he arrives, he doesn't just enter a scene, he changes the gravity of the room. His charisma is weaponized, and the film never lets you forget how seductive and terrifying that can be. So we keep talking, keep circling, keep finding new ways to say that Bad Times at the El Royale is more than a movie. It's an experience, a mood you can almost smell and taste, a mood that settles into your bones and stays there. It's the rare film that feels personal without ever being manipulative, that leaves you reflective instead of drained, that makes you want to protect its secrets, even as you want to share them with someone else who will understand. If you're still with me, still feeling that pull, then you already know what to do. Find a quiet night, turn off the world, let the rain and the neon and the music take over. Step across that red line with them. Stay until the end, and when the screen goes black, don't move right away. Let the night linger a little longer, because this movie doesn't just end. It echoes. We're still not ready to leave the El Royale just yet, and I think that's the truest sign of how special this movie really is. It's the kind of film that doesn't want to let you go, that keeps whispering, "Stay a little longer," even after the story has technically ended. There's a lingering quality to it, like the faint smell of cigarette smoke and rain that clings to your clothes long after you've stepped outside. You finish watching and you don't immediately jump up to scroll or switch to something else. You sit there, letting the final notes of the music fade, letting the last image, the empty lobby, the quiet hallway, the red line still painted on the floor, settle into your mind. And then, slowly, you start noticing how the movie has quietly rearranged something inside you. Not in a dramatic, life-changing way, but in small, subtle shifts. You find yourself paying more attention to the silences between people in real life, noticing how much gets said without words, how much history can hide behind a polite smile or a hesitant glance. The El Royale doesn't preach about human connection. It simply shows it happening in the most unlikely, most difficult circumstances, and leaves you with the quiet realization that maybe, just maybe, it's always possible, even when everything else says it isn't. What keeps drawing people back year after year is how the film feels like a living thing. It changes with you. The first time you watch it, you're caught up in the mystery. Who are these people? What do they want? What's going to happen next? The suspense keeps you locked in, heart racing during the quiet buildup, breath held when things finally erupt. The second time, you start noticing the craft, the way the lighting shifts to mirror emotional states, the precise timing of every song cue, the deliberate rhythm of the editing that makes 2 hours feel both expansive and inevitable. By the third viewing, you're watching the characters differently. You know what's coming, but now you're watching how they get there, how they carry their burdens, how they surprise even themselves with small acts of courage or kindness. And each time, the movie gives you something new. A line you hadn't fully heard before, a look you missed, a color that suddenly feels loaded with meaning. It's generous like that. It doesn't demand you understand everything on the first pass. It rewards you for coming back, for paying closer attention, for letting it unfold slowly. The heart of the film, if I had to pin it down, is this stubborn belief in the possibility of change. Not the grand Hollywood-style redemption arc, but the small, painful, incremental kind. Characters arrive carrying years of mistakes, lies, compromises, and self-deception. And over the course of one night, they don't magically become new people. They don't erase the past. But they do, in tiny, hard-won ways, choose differently than they might have the day before. A hand reaches out instead of pulling away. A truth is spoken instead of buried. A song is sung when silence would be safer. These aren't sweeping victories. They're fragile, flickering things. And the movie treats them as precious exactly because they are so fragile. It understands that real transformation rarely looks heroic. It looks quiet, uncertain, sometimes even foolish. And yet it happens. The film doesn't guarantee that everything will be okay, but it refuses to believe that nothing can be okay. That refusal to despair completely is what gives the whole thing its strange, bittersweet warmth. And the craft keeps shining brighter the more you look. The production design isn't just beautiful, it's storytelling in every detail. The way the wallpaper peels in certain rooms, suggesting lives that have slowly unraveled. The way the furniture looks expensive but worn, like the hotel itself is clinging to memories of better days. The way the jukebox glows red in the dark, a beacon of fleeting joy in a place that's otherwise full of shadows. Every visual choice is there to deepen the mood, to make you feel the weight of time and regret and fleeting possibility. Seamus McGarvey's cinematography turns the ordinary into the cinematic. A simple walk down a hallway becomes suspenseful. A close-up on a trembling hand becomes heartbreaking. A wide shot of the empty lobby becomes almost existential. It's filmmaking that trusts the power of images to say what words sometimes can't. So we keep circling back, keep finding new ways to say the same thing. Bad Times at the El Royale is rare. It's patient in a world that rarely is. It's stylish without being shallow, dark without being hopeless, emotional without being manipulative. It's the kind of movie that reminds you why we fall in love with cinema, not just for escape, but for reflection, for feeling less alone in our own messiness, for being reminded that even in the worst nights, something human can still survive. If you've made it this far with me, thank you. Thank you for letting me ramble, for staying in this conversation as long as the movie itself stays with us. Now, when you're ready, when the moment feels right, go back, or go for the first time, and let the El Royale have you again. Let the rain fall. Let the music play. Let these strangers become, for a few hours, the most important people in the world. And when it's over, don't rush away. Let it linger. Let it echo. Because the best stories don't end when the screen fades. They just move inside you, quietly, and stay. We're still here, still wandering the faded hallways of Bad Times at the El Royale, and I swear the longer we stay, the more the place starts to feel like home in the strangest, most bittersweet way. There's something comforting about returning to this movie, like revisiting an old motel you once passed through on a late-night drive. Everything looks the same, yet somehow different, because you yourself have changed since the last time. The lobby still has that same red line slicing through the floor. The chandelier still throws the same fractured light across the worn carpet. The jukebox still waits in the corner like an old friend who knows too many of your secrets. But now you notice things you missed before. The way the rain streaks the windows like slow tears, the faint smell of mildew and old perfume that seems to rise from the upholstery, the way the silence between thunderclaps feels heavier than the storm itself. The movie doesn't change, but the way it speaks to you does, and that's the quiet miracle of truly great films. They grow with you, they meet you where you are, they hold space for whatever you're carrying when you walk through the door. One of the most profound gifts this film offers is the dignity it gives to failure. None of these characters are winners in any conventional sense. They've all stumbled, compromised, hurt people, been hurt, lied to themselves and others until the lies became the only truth they could bear. And yet, the movie never reduces them to their worst moments. It never turns them into punchlines or cautionary tales. Instead, it looks at them with a kind of fierce, unflinching compassion. You see a man who has spent decades pretending to be holy while carrying guilt like a second skin, and the film doesn't judge him. It watches him try, one trembling step at a time, to be something closer to honest. You see a woman who has fought for every note she's ever sung, only to be told again and again that her voice doesn't fit the shape the world wants, and the film doesn't pity her. It celebrates the fire that still burns in her throat when she finally opens her mouth and lets the music out. You see a young man who has seen too much too soon, who carries shame he never asked for, and the film doesn't make him a victim. It makes him a quiet hero in the only way that feels real, by letting him choose kindness when cruelty would be easier. This refusal to simplify, to moralize, to wrap everything in easy judgment is what gives the story its soul. It says, you are more than your mistakes. You are more than your worst night. And sometimes, just sometimes, that knowledge is enough to keep going. The soundscape of the film is another layer that keeps revealing itself. Beyond the soundtrack, which is perfection on its own, there's this entire world of subtle audio textures that pull you deeper in. The low hum of the neon sign outside, flickering like a heartbeat. The soft creak of floorboards that have borne witness to too many secrets. The muffled thump of footsteps overhead, reminding you that no one is ever truly alone in a place like this. The way a door latch clicks with finality, or a glass clinks against a bottle, or a song ends and the needle scratches before lifting. Every sound is placed with intention. Every silence is shaped with care. It creates this immersive cocoon where time feels elastic. 2 hours pass in what feels like both an eternity and a single held breath. You don't just watch the movie, you inhabit it. And the ending, still no spoilers, I promise, lands like a slow exhale after holding your breath for too long. It's not triumphant in the loud, crowd-pleasing sense. It's not despairing in the nihilistic sense. It's something quieter, more honest, more human. Some wounds are bandaged, some are left open, Some are transformed into scars that will tell new stories. You leave the theater, or your living room, with this gentle ache. Not the ache of disappointment, but the ache of having felt something real. It's the ache that reminds you you're alive, that other people are alive, that connection is still possible, even when everything else says it shouldn't be. So we keep talking, keep circling back, because Bad Times at the El Royale is the kind of film that invites endless return. It doesn't demand your love. It earns it, slowly, stubbornly, beautifully. It asks for your attention, your patience, your willingness to sit in the uncomfortable places with it, and in return, it gives you something rare. A story that feels like it was made just for the version of you who needed it right now. If you're still here with me, still feeling that tug, then listen to it. Trust it. Make the time. Find a quiet evening, close the door, turn down the lights, let the rain and the music and the strangers pull you in. Let them show you what grace looks like when it's bruised and weary and still trying. Let them remind you that even in the worst rooms, even on the worst nights, something good can still happen. And when the final frame fades, don't rush. Stay a moment. Let the echoes settle. Let the lobby stay quiet just a little longer. Because the best stories don't end. They just move inside you, quietly, and wait for the next rainy night when you need them again. We're still right here in the warm glow of that flickering neon sign outside the El Royale. And I have to tell you, the more time we spend soaking in this movie, the more it feels like one of those rare experiences that wraps around you like a comfortable old coat on a cold, rainy night. Familiar, yet full of hidden pockets of wonder you keep discovering every time you reach inside. There's a gentle rhythm to Bad Times at the El Royale that almost lulls you into a trance. The way the storm keeps drumming steadily on the roof, the way the characters circle each other in the lobby like dancers who don't quite trust the music yet, the way the night stretches out long enough for old wounds to open, for truths to slip out in whispers, for small, fragile bridges to form between people who started the evening as complete strangers with every reason to stay that way. It's not a film that grabs you by the collar and shakes you. It's one that invites you to sit down at the bar, pour yourself a drink, and listen to the stories these weary travelers have been carrying for far too long. And once you accept that invitation, once you settle into the worn leather of the booth and let the atmosphere seep into your skin, you realize you're not just watching a thriller. You're witnessing something closer to a ritual, a slow cleansing of souls under the cover of darkness, where the rain washes away some of the grime and the music reminds everyone that joy, however fleeting, is still possible, even in a place that has seen more than its share of sorrow. What makes this movie feel so endlessly alive is the way it treats every single moment as an opportunity for revelation, not just in the big dramatic turns, but in the tiniest details that most films would rush past. A hand that hesitates before picking up a phone receiver, a glance that lingers half a second too long across the lobby, the way someone straightens their posture when they realize they're being watched, the soft exhale after a lie has been told and momentarily believed. These are the threads that weave the real fabric of the story. Goddard has this extraordinary gift for making the ordinary feel charged with meaning, for turning a simple act like flipping a coin to decide which state to stay in into a profound symbol of the choices we all make every day, the little gambles we take with our morals, our hearts, our futures. The hotel itself becomes a mirror for that inner turmoil. Every room slightly different, every mirror slightly warped, every window streaked with rain that blurs the line between inside and outside, between safety and danger, between who we pretend to be and who we actually are when no one is looking. And because the film takes its time, because it lets these moments breathe instead of cutting away the second the point is made, you start to feel the cumulative weight of all those small choices, all those quiet struggles, until the emotional payoff arrives not as a shock, but as something deeply earned. Something that resonates in your chest long after the scene has ended. The performances, too, keep giving and giving the more you think about them, like a great piece of music that reveals new harmonies with every listen. Jeff Bridges brings this world-weary tenderness to his role that makes you want to reach through the screen and offer the man a hug, even as you know he's carrying secrets heavy enough to crush a lesser soul. There's a softness in his eyes, a slight tremor in his voice that speaks of decades spent trying to do right in a world that rarely rewards it. Cynthia Erivo, oh man, she is the beating heart of the whole film. Her voice isn't just beautiful, it's a weapon, a shield, a prayer, a cry for recognition all rolled into one. And every time she sings, you feel her reclaiming a piece of herself that the world tried to take away. You can sense the years of doors slammed in her face, the endless auditions where she was told she was too much or not enough. And yet here she is, standing in a rundown hotel lobby, pouring everything into a song for an audience of suspicious strangers, and somehow making it feel like the most important performance of her life. Jon Hamm plays charm like a master magician, making you smile even as the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, while Lewis Pullman brings this heartbreaking innocence that makes every small crack in his composure feel like the world is breaking a little. Dakota Johnson and Kaylee Spaney together create this tangled sister dynamic that pulls at your heart. Protective, resentful, loving, destructive all at once. And when Chris Hemsworth finally strides in, shirtless and smiling like he owns the night, the whole temperature shifts, the air gets thicker, and you understand viscerally how easy it is to follow someone who makes the wrong path feel like freedom. At its deepest level, Bad Times at the El Royale is a film about the stories we tell ourselves to survive, the masks we wear to get through the day, and what happens when life forces us to take them off and look at the raw face underneath. It's about the courage it takes to admit you've been wrong, to ask for help, to offer help, to choose connection over isolation even when every instinct screams to run. It's about the way music can cut through the noise of our lives and remind us who we are underneath all the noise. It's about the thin red line we all walk between the people we were yesterday and the people we might still become tomorrow. And it tells all of this not with speeches or sermons, but with glances, with songs, with rain on windows, with the soft click of a door closing on a chapter that needed to end. The film never raises its voice, never demands you feel a certain way. It simply opens its doors, invites you in out of the storm, and trusts that you'll find what you need in the quiet spaces between the thunder. So here we are, still talking, still lingering, because this movie has that kind of hold. It doesn't let you leave unchanged. It plants little seeds of thought, of feeling, of possibility, and they grow quietly in the days that follow. You find yourself humming "This Old Heart of Mine" while making coffee. You catch yourself being a little kinder to a stranger. You notice the rain a little more, the way it cleans things, the way it hides things, the way it makes everything feel fresh and uncertain at the same time. That's the magic of the El Royale. It doesn't just entertain you for 2 hours. It gives you a night you'll carry with you, a night that feels as real as any you've lived yourself. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for letting me share this love, for walking these hallways with me, for sitting in the lobby and listening to the rain a little longer. Now, whenever you're ready, go back to the movie, or go to it for the first time, and let it do what it does best. Open its doors, turn on the neon, play the music, and remind you that even on the worst nights, even in the most forgotten places, people can still find their way to something better. Let the storm come, let the songs play, let the night change you, just a little. We're still comfortably settled in the soft, flickering light of the El Royale lobby, rain tapping insistently on the big windows like an old friend who refuses to let the conversation end. And I think that's exactly how this movie wants to be experienced, slowly, repeatedly, with no hurry to leave. There's a kind of gentle insistence in Bad Times at the El Royale, a quiet refusal to let you walk out unchanged, as if the film itself is saying, "Stay, just a little longer. There's still something here you haven't quite felt yet." And every time you return to it, something new opens up. Not because the movie has changed, but because you've changed. Because the person watching tonight carries different memories, different bruises, different hopes than the person who watched last year, last month, or even last week. The story meets you exactly where you stand, and somehow it always knows the right thing to say, the right silence to leave hanging, the right song to let drift through the air at exactly the moment your heart needs it most. One of the deepest, most beautiful things about this film is how it understands loneliness without ever making it feel lonely. These 7 people arrive at the hotel carrying solitude like luggage they've been dragging for years, some heavy and obvious, some light and carefully concealed. But they don't stay alone. Not really. The hotel forces proximity, yes, but more than that, it forces recognition. You can't hide in a place where the walls are thin and the mirrors are honest. You can't pretend forever when someone is looking right at you, when someone hears your voice crack on a high note, when someone sees your hand shake as you pour a drink. The film never romanticizes isolation. It shows how exhausting it is, how brittle it makes you, how it slowly erodes the parts of you that still want to be seen and known. And then, in tiny, almost imperceptible ways, it shows the opposite. The relief of being witnessed, the strange comfort of someone knowing your worst secret and not immediately running, the quiet miracle of another human being choosing, despite everything, to stay in the same room with you a little longer. It's not loud friendship or dramatic reconciliation. It's something smaller, more honest, more real. A shared cigarette, a nod across the lobby, a song sung when no one asked you to sing, a hand that reaches out and doesn't pull away. These are the moments the movie treasures most, and it treats them with such reverence that you start to believe they matter more than any explosion or confession ever could. The visual poetry of the film keeps unfolding like a slow dream you don't want to wake from. The way the red line on the floor catches the light differently as the night progresses, bright and accusatory in the early hours, almost glowing with possibility near the end. The way shadows stretch long across the carpet when someone stands alone in the middle of the lobby, making them look both giant and fragile at the same time. The way the neon sign outside pulses like a heartbeat, throwing pink and blue across wet glass, turning every raindrop into a tiny prism. Every frame feels like it was painted with intention, not just photographed. Even the smallest details, the tarnished brass of the room keys, the faded gold lettering on the matchbooks, the way dust motes drift in the beam of a single lamp, feel like they're whispering part of the story. And when the music swells, when Cynthia Erivo's voice rises above the storm, the entire screen seems to breathe with her. The colors deepen, the shadows soften, and for a few perfect seconds, the whole world feels like it's holding its breath right along with you. At its core, Bad Times at the El Royale is a love letter to the stubborn, messy, beautiful persistence of being human. It says, yes, you have failed. Yes, you have hurt people. Yes, you have lied to yourself until the lie felt truer than the truth. And still, there is something in you worth saving, worth seeing, worth singing for, worth staying up all night to protect. The movie doesn't promise that everyone gets a happy ending. It doesn't promise that the rain will stop and the sun will come out and everything will be fixed. What it promises instead is that one night, one choice, one small act of courage or kindness or honesty can matter. It can shift the direction of a life, even if only by a degree. It can remind someone, maybe even you, that the story isn't over yet, that the next page is still blank, that dawn is still coming whether you believe in it or not. So we keep lingering here. Keep talking about this film because it keeps giving us reasons to. It keeps reminding us that stories matter, that people matter, that nights like this, dark, rainy, uncertain, can still hold light if we're willing to look for it. Bad Times at the El Royale isn't just a movie you watch. It's a place you visit, a mood you carry, a quiet companion that knows how to sit with you in the dark without saying a word. If you're still with me, still feeling that pull toward the neon and the rain and the strangers who aren't strangers anymore, then listen to your heart. Make the time. Turn off the world for a couple of hours. Step across that red line again, or for the very first time, and let the El Royale remind you why stories like this still matter so much. Let the music find you. Let the night hold you. Let these people show you what grace looks like when it's tired, scarred, and still trying. And when the credits roll, when the lobby falls silent again, don't hurry away. Stay a moment. Let the echoes settle. Let the feeling stay with you, because the best nights don't end when the lights come up. They just move inside you, quietly, and wait for the next time you need them. Thank you, Ashwani, for letting me ramble on and on about one of the most beautiful, tender, stubborn films I've ever loved. It's been a gift. Now go. Check in one more time. The doors are open, the rain is falling, and the night is still full of possibility. We're still right here in the quiet hush that follows the storm, the kind of hush that settles over the El Royale long after the last guest has slipped out into the gray dawn. And I keep thinking how this movie has a way of turning that silence into something almost sacred. something you want to protect and carry with you like a secret you weren't supposed to know, but now can't imagine living without. There's a tenderness in bad times at the El Royale that sneaks up on you, hidden behind all the noir shadows and sharp edges, a tenderness that shows itself in the smallest gestures. The way someone pauses before lighting a cigarette to offer the flame to another, the way a voice cracks just enough on a high note to let real pain bleed through the melody, the way eyes meet across a lobby and hold for one heartbeat longer than they should, as if both people suddenly remember what it feels like to be truly seen. The film never forces that tenderness on you. It lets it emerge naturally, almost reluctantly, like flowers pushing through cracked concrete after a long winter. And when it does, it feels earned in a way that makes your chest ache with recognition. These are people who have spent years convincing themselves that softness is weakness, that vulnerability is a luxury they can't afford, that the world has already taught them everything they need to know about survival. And yet, over the course of one endless night, they discover that the very things they thought would destroy them are the only things that might save them, not in some grand, sweeping way, but in the quiet, stubborn act of choosing to stay present, to listen, to offer a hand when every instinct screams to pull it back. What keeps drawing us back to this film, what makes us want to sit in the dark with it again and again, is the way it refuses to resolve everything neatly while still leaving you with a strange, stubborn sense of hope. It doesn't tell you that the world outside the hotel will suddenly become kind, that the rain will stop forever, that the scars will vanish by morning. What it does tell you is that one night, one single, messy, imperfect night, can matter. It can shift the angle of a life just enough that the path ahead looks different. Not perfect, not easy, but different. A song sung at the right moment can remind someone they still have a voice. A lie confessed can lighten a burden that has been carried for decades. A moment of mercy given when vengeance would be simpler can ripple outward in ways no one can predict. The movie doesn't promise miracles. It simply shows that miracles sometimes look like ordinary people doing ordinary things under extraordinary pressure, reaching across a divide instead of stepping back, choosing forgiveness over retribution, choosing to believe in the possibility of something better even when every reason points the other way. And because it shows those choices without fanfare, without swelling music or triumphant speeches, they land deeper, they stay longer. They become the kind of quiet truths you carry into your own rainy nights. The visual memory of the film lingers like a dream you don't want to shake off. You can close your eyes and still see the way the red line on the floor catches the neon glow and seems to pulse with its own quiet life, the way shadows stretch and twist across the lobby walls as if the building itself is breathing with the characters, the way rain streaks down the windows in slow silver rivers that turn every reflection into something softer, more forgiving. You remember the close-up of a hand trembling as it reaches for a glass, the way light catches on the edge of a tear that never quite falls, the sudden flare of warmth when a song fills the room, and for a few seconds the cold, damp air feels almost bearable. These images aren't just pretty, they're emotional anchors. They ground the story in something you can feel in your body, something that stays with you long after the plot points have faded, reminding you that cinema at its best isn't just about telling a story. It's about making you feel the weight and wonder of being alive in a world that is often hard and always uncertain. So we keep coming back to these words, keep wandering these hallways in our minds, because Bad Times at the El Royale is more than a film. It's a place you can return to when the world feels too loud, too fast, too unforgiving. It's a reminder that slowness can be powerful, that quiet can be brave, that connection can happen even when everything else says it shouldn't. It's a movie that knows how to sit with you in the dark, how to hold space for your doubts and your hopes without ever asking you to explain them. And that's why we can't quite leave it behind, why we keep talking about it, why we keep inviting others to step inside and see for themselves. If you're still here, still feeling that gentle tug toward the neon and the rain and the strangers who become something more, then trust it. Trust the pull. Find your quiet night. Close the door. Let the storm in. Let the music find you. Let these people show you what it looks like to keep going, even when the road ahead is blurred by rain and doubt. Let the El Royale hold you for a while longer. Let it remind you that even the most broken places can still be beautiful, that even the most wounded hearts can still sing. And when the final note fades, when the lobby falls silent again, don't rush to leave. Stay. Breathe. Feel the echo of the night settle inside you like a promise you didn't know you needed. Because some stories don't end when the screen goes dark. They just begin to live inside you, quietly, patiently, waiting for the next rainy night when you'll need them most. We're still lingering in that soft after-storm hush inside the El Royale, where the rain has finally eased into a gentle patter on the roof, and the neon sign outside flickers just enough to remind you that the night isn't quite over yet, that there's still time for one more drink, one more song, one more quiet confession before dawn creeps in and changes everything. This movie has a way of stretching time like warm taffy, making 2 hours feel like a whole lifetime lived in miniature, because it understands that the real drama of being human doesn't happen in explosions or chases. It happens in the pauses, in the moments when someone decides not to speak, then decides to speak anyway, in the split second where a hand hovers over a door handle, wondering whether to open it or let it stay closed forever. Every character in Bad Times at the El Royale arrives carrying the weight of years they haven't fully reckoned with. Years of small betrayals and large regrets. Years of telling themselves stories about who they are until the stories hardened into armor. And yet, the film never treats that armor as unbreakable. It shows, with almost heartbreaking patience, how armor can crack, not with a sledgehammer, but with the soft insistence of another person's presence, with the unexpected kindness of a shared cigarette, with the sound of a voice singing something true in a room full of strangers who suddenly aren't strangers anymore. What continues to astonish me, even after all these viewings, is how the movie turns vulnerability into something almost holy. There's no shame in the way these people falter, no mockery when they admit they've been afraid or selfish or lost. Instead, the film watches them with a kind of gentle awe, as if to say, look how brave it is to admit you're hurting, look how beautiful it is to try again anyway. Cynthia Erivo's Darlene doesn't just sing, she reclaims herself with every note, turning a run-down hotel lobby into a stage where she can finally be heard on her own terms, and you feel the years of silence she's endured lifting off her shoulders in real time. Jeff Bridges' priest carries his guilt like a second skin, yet there's this quiet, stubborn dignity in the way he keeps trying to do right, even when he doubts there's any right left to do. Louis Pullman's young concierge moves through the night with the wide-eyed sorrow of someone who has already seen too much, and his small, deliberate acts of decency feel like acts of defiance against a world that tried to teach him otherwise. Dakota Johnson and Kaylee Spaney as the sisters carry this tangled, aching love that hurts as much as it heals, and Jon Hamm's salesman hides his own desperation behind a smile so practiced it almost looks real, until it doesn't. And when Chris Hemsworth's Billy Lee arrives, bringing that dangerous, magnetic certainty, the film lets you understand how easy it is to follow someone who promises to make the confusion disappear, even when you know deep down that confusion is part of being alive. The atmosphere the film creates is so complete, so enveloping, that you almost forget you're watching a movie at all. You feel the damp chill of the rain through the windows, hear the low hum of the heater struggling against the cold, smell the faint mix of old wood polish and cigarette ash and wet wool coats hanging in the lobby. Every sound is weighted, the soft click of a lighter, the creak of a floorboard under careful steps, the distant crackle of a radio playing something from a world that feels very far away. The colors shift with the mood, the warm amber glow of California side giving way to the cooler, more seductive purples of Nevada, the red line on the floor seeming to deepen as the night wears on, as if it's absorbing the choices being made above it. And when the music rises, when Erivo's voice cuts through the tension like sunlight through clouds, the entire screen seems to expand, the air feels lighter, and for a few perfect minutes, the weight of everything lifts just enough to let you breathe. At its heart, Bad Times at the El Royale is a film about the stubborn, beautiful refusal to give up on each other, or on ourselves, even when giving up would be so much easier. It's about the way one night can become a crossroads, a place where paths that have been running parallel for years suddenly intersect, where people who have spent lifetimes avoiding mirrors finally have to look. It doesn't promise that everyone walks away healed. It doesn't promise that the rain stops and the sun comes out and everything is made right. What it promises instead is that the attempt matters. That showing up, even broken, even afraid, even unsure, matters. That a song sung in the dark, a hand offered in the quiet, a truth spoken when silence would be safer. These things matter more than any grand gesture ever could. So we keep sitting here, keep talking about this film, because it keeps reminding us that there is still room for grace in the world, still space for kindness in the places we least expect it, still hope in nights that feel endless. Bad Times at the El Royale isn't just a story you watch, it's a feeling you carry, a quiet companion that knows how to sit with you when the world feels too heavy, too fast, too indifferent. If you're still with me, still feeling that gentle, persistent pull toward the rain and the neon and the strangers who become something more, then listen. Make the time. Find your own quiet night. Close the door. Let the storm in. Let the music find its way to you. Let these people remind you that even the most broken nights can still hold light if you're willing to stay awake for them. Let the El Royale open its doors to you again. Let it hold you. Let it whisper that you're not alone in the dark. And when the final frame fades, when the lobby falls silent once more, don't move right away. Stay. Let the echoes settle deep inside you. Let them stay. We're still here, still wrapped in the soft, persistent hush that follows the final credits of Bad Times at the El Royale, where the lobby lights have dimmed to a gentle amber, and the rain outside has settled into that steady, almost soothing rhythm that makes you feel like the world has paused just long enough to let you breathe. This movie has a way of creating its own gravity, pulling you back not with loud promises or cliffhanger twists, but with the quiet certainty that there's always one more layer to uncover, one more small moment you hadn't fully felt before. The way a character's shoulders drop half an inch when they finally stop pretending. The way a song lyric suddenly lands like a truth you didn't know you were waiting to hear. The way the red line on the floor seems to glow a little softer after everything that's happened, as if the hotel itself has decided to forgive a little, to hold its judgment for another night. It's the kind of film that doesn't demand your attention so much as it earns your surrender, asking you to sit still in the dark with it, to let the atmosphere seep into your skin until you forget the difference between the people on screen and the parts of yourself you've been carrying around in silence. What makes Bad Times at the El Royale feel so timeless, so endlessly revisitable, is how it treats every human flaw not as a plot device to be solved, but as a landscape to be walked through. These characters arrive with their histories trailing behind them like long shadows, guilt that has calcified over years, shame that has become second nature, hope that has been beaten down so many times it barely dares to show its face. And the film doesn't rush to fix them. It lets them exist in their brokenness, lets them stumble through the night with all their contradictions intact, lets them hurt each other and themselves in ways that feel achingly real. And yet, in the middle of all that mess, it finds these pockets of unexpected gentleness. A priest who still believes enough to offer absolution even when he doubts his own. A singer who finds her voice again, not on a grand stage but in a nearly empty room full of strangers. A young concierge who chooses kindness when cruelty would be simpler and safer. These aren't grand gestures meant to redeem the whole story. They're small, stubborn refusals to let the darkness win completely. And the movie treasures them the way a collector treasures rare, imperfect jewels, because their imperfection is what makes them precious. The visual and sonic memory of the film keeps unfolding inside you like a slow dream you wake from reluctantly. You can still see the way the chandelier throws fractured light across the lobby floor, turning every reflection into something slightly distorted, slightly more honest. You can still hear the low, mournful thrum of the storm outside, the way it blends with Michael Giacchino's brooding score until the boundaries between music and weather disappear. You can still feel the texture of the moment when Cynthia Erivo's voice rises above everything, the raw edge of it, the power, the vulnerability, and suddenly the whole room feels warmer, the air feels breathable again, the night feels less like a trap and more like a space where something real might still happen. These sensations don't fade, they settle deeper with each viewing, becoming part of the furniture of your mind, ready to reappear on any rainy evening when you need reminding that beauty can still bloom in places everyone else has written off. At its deepest core, this movie is about the courage it takes to keep showing up, as yourself, as flawed and contradictory and wounded as you are, even when showing up feels like the most dangerous thing you could do. It says that the opposite of despair isn't blind optimism, it's persistence. It's the quiet decision to stay in the room, to keep listening, to keep offering what little light you have left, even when the odds seem stacked against any kind of meaningful change. It says that one night, properly lived, properly felt, can be enough to shift the direction of a life, not by rewriting the past, but by opening a door to a different future. And it says all of this without ever raising its voice, without ever preaching, without ever asking you to believe in anything bigger than the people standing right in front of you, trying their best in the middle of a storm. So we keep lingering here, keep talking in circles around this film, because it keeps giving us permission to do so. It keeps reminding us that there is still room in the world for patience, for tenderness, for the slow, unglamorous work of becoming a little less alone. Bad Times at the El Royale isn't a movie you finish. It's a movie you carry, a quiet companion that knows how to sit with you when everything else feels too loud, too fast, too certain of its own answers. If you're still here with me, still feeling that soft, persistent invitation to return, then trust it completely. Find your own rainy night, dim the lights, close the door on the rest of the world, and let the El Royale open its doors to you once more. Let the music wash over you. Let the strangers become people you care about. Let the night remind you that even the most damaged places can still hold light, that even the most damaged hearts can still sing. And when the final image fades, when the lobby grows quiet again, don't hurry to move. Stay. Let the feeling settle deep inside you like rain soaking into dry earth. Let it stay. Because the best nights don't end when the screen goes black. They just become part of who you are, waiting patiently for the next time you need them to remind you why it's worth keeping the light on. We're still right here, still breathing in the damp, comforting air of the El Royale long after the last chord has faded and the lobby lights have settled into that soft, sleepy glow that comes right before morning decides whether to show up or not. And I keep coming back to how this movie feels like a conversation that never really needs to end, like two old friends sitting on a porch swing at 3 in the morning, passing a bottle back and forth, saying very little, yet understanding everything. There's a profound gentleness in Bad Times at the El Royale that doesn't announce itself. It simply exists, steady and unhurried, in the way the camera lingers on a face after a lie has been told, and the silence that follows feels more honest than any words could be, in the way a hand brushes against another hand not quite by accident, in the way someone finally stops running from their own reflection in the hallway mirror and just stands there, looking, really looking, at who they've become. The film never demands that you cry or cheer or gasp. It only asks that you witness, that you allow yourself to feel the slow, almost imperceptible shifting of hearts that happens when people stop performing long enough to be seen, when the masks they've worn for protection start to feel heavier than the truth they're hiding. What makes this film linger in the quiet corners of your mind for days, weeks, years afterward is how it treats every character as if they matter, not because they are heroic or clever or doomed in some glamorous way, but because they are human, because they wake up every morning inside a body that remembers every mistake, every compromise, every time they chose the easier path and hated themselves a little more for it. Jeff Bridges' priest carries the weight of a lifetime of half-truths in the slight slump of his shoulders, in the way his voice softens when he speaks to someone who might still believe him, even though he barely believes himself anymore. Cynthia Erivo's Darlene carries years of being told her voice doesn't belong anywhere in the careful way she holds her body, like she's protecting something fragile inside her chest, until the moment she decides to let it out and the whole room, hell, the whole world, suddenly feels too small to contain what she's been holding back. Lewis Pullman's Miles moves through the night like someone who has learned too early that the world punishes softness. Yet he keeps choosing softness anyway, in tiny, almost invisible ways that feel like quiet revolutions against everything that tried to harden him. And when the others arrive, Dakota Johnson with her guarded fire, Kaylee Spaney with her wide-eyed danger, Jon Hamm with his practiced charm cracking at the edges, Chris Hemsworth with that terrifying, beautiful certainty, the film lets them all exist fully, lets their contradictions coexist without forcing them to resolve into something simpler, because real people don't resolve. They just keep going, bruised and contradictory, and still somehow capable of surprising themselves with a little more grace than they thought they had left. The atmosphere the movie creates is so complete, so enveloping, that it becomes a place you can return to whenever the real world feels too sharp, too noisy, too impatient. You can close your eyes and be back in that lobby, hearing the rain tap against the glass like fingers drumming on a tabletop, feeling the low thrum of the jukebox even when it's silent, smelling the faint ghost of old perfume and cigarette smoke and wet wool that clings to everything. You can feel the texture of the moment when a song begins and the air changes, when tension that's been building for hours suddenly finds a place to rest, when strangers who were ready to tear each other apart find themselves breathing in the same rhythm for a few perfect seconds. These are not just cinematic tricks, they are emotional anchors, little buoys you can hold on to when everything else feels like it's slipping away. At its deepest, most essential level, Bad Times at the El Royale is a film about the sacredness of staying. Staying in the room when every instinct says run. Staying with the truth when lying would be easier. Staying with another person when walking away would hurt less. Staying with yourself when you've spent a lifetime trying to leave yourself behind. It says that the opposite of abandonment isn't dramatic rescue. It's presence. It's persistence. It's the quiet, unglamorous choice to remain even when remaining feels impossible. And it says this not with speeches or sermons, but with rain on windows, with songs sung in half darkness, with hands that tremble but don't pull back, with eyes that meet and hold and somehow, against all odds, see. So we keep sitting here, keep letting the words spill out, because this movie keeps giving us permission to do so, keeps reminding us that there is still room in the world for patience, for tenderness, for the slow, stubborn work of being human together. Bad Times at the El Royale is not a film you conquer or solve. It is a film you inhabit, a film you carry like a warm ember in your pocket on cold days, a film that knows how to sit with you when no one else does. If you're still here, still feeling that soft, steady invitation to return, then trust it with everything you have. Find your own quiet night, turn off the noise of the world, let the storm in through the speakers, let the neon glow in your mind. Let these people remind you that even the longest nights eventually give way to something softer, something possible, something worth staying awake for. Let the El Royale take you in again. Let it hold you gently. Let it whisper that you are not alone in the dark, that you never really were. And when the final silence arrives, when the lobby grows still once more, don't hurry to leave. Stay. Let the feeling sink deep into your bones. Let it become part of you.